Bound from 390 into the old post office, and things are slow because of police activity that we've been telling you about in Elmhurst, and that inbound delay starts at Mill, goes all the way to Route 83. Stevenson inbound is an hour from 355 into DuSable Lakeshore Drive. Bishop Ford inbound has an accident at 111. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next. AM 560 Weather Center forecast. Sunshine and 87 today. 65 at O'Hare. Next news at 7. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560 The Answer.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson. If you're looking for the latest news, insight into what it means, and the sharpest opinion, there's only one station in Chicago where you can turn, and it's this one. We're AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. The circus of the Trump trials has begun in earnest. And not where you necessarily expected. You know, there's so much action. I understand it's hard to keep track of the civil and the criminal, but this civil case brought by New York State Attorney General Letitia James against Trump and the Trump Organization, seeking to put him out of business, at least out of business in the state of New York. He was in court yesterday.
Oh, yeah.
With the judge smiling, showing off his pearly whites for the camera.
No shock, he's a Democratic judge.
Card-carrying member of the ACLU, I understand. But anyway, he bears a striking resemblance to that creepy old guy from Poltergeist, too. You're all gonna die! Yeah. Anyway.
You know what? That's pretty good.
So you hope he doesn't
spot on.
Show up on your door. Show your doorstep, that is. So anyway, Trump, with the
I love Trump.
Impromptu post-game press conference was not mincing words.
One doesn't have to be a lawyer to see the danger to anyone doing business in the Empire State. Anybody that does business in New York State is crazy. When you have a radical left Attorney General like Letitia James, who's a disgrace to our country, who got elected on the fact that she's going to take down President Trump. We're going to take him down. She knew nothing about me. But she got elected on that basis. And we have others likewise. Take a look at what's going on in Georgia. Take a look at Jack Smith. Take a look at these people. This is called election interference, and worse than that, really much worse than that. And you don't get much worse than election interference, especially we're talking presidential election of 2024. So this judge should change his ruling because Palm Beach County said he was totally wrong, and he was ruling based on them. He ruled we didn't even have a chance to testify. I got a call last week, sir, we lost part of the case. I said, the trial didn't even start. You know, the trial starts, I guess, today. He ruled that we lost a big part of the case because he's a Democrat club politician. He's a Democrat operative, and he's a disgrace to people that call themselves judges. And I hope my lawyers go in, and I hope they fight him very hard, because this guy's getting away with murder. And his clerk should not be allowed to be in his ear on every single question. You take a look at what's happening with her. She hates Trump more than he does. So that's where it is.
I love when he refers to himself in the third person like a professional athlete. To understand something here, yeah, this trial is just about additional penalties sought.
Right. I mean, she wants $225 million because she claimed that he overvalued his property. That's what she claims. There's no victim here.
Well,
they made good with the banks.
Letitia James, also wants an order barring Trump and his organizations from doing business in New York State.
I mean, has this ever happened again where somebody's gone after a family like this to stop them from doing business in a state? No.
Put that to Professor William Jacobson, clinical professor of law, director of the Securities Law Clinic at Cornell Law School, founder of LegalInsurrection.com and president of Legal Insurrection Foundation. Also, as we've talked about before, started the Equal Protection Project recently. That's provided great support to trying to infuse some sanity and the rule of law on college campuses. And by the way, just as a quick aside,
Not related to me.
not related to you, number one. Number two,
Yes.
just did a podcast with Professor Jacobson. So if you download Counterculture, my podcast Counterculture on Spotify and elsewhere, watch it on Rumble, whatever, YouTube. That should be posted before the week is out for an extended conversation on more topics than we can get to today. But anyway, Professor Jacobson, thanks so much for joining us again. Appreciate it.
Good morning.
So you've called this situation, this case that we were just describing, this civil case against the Trump Organization real estate empire, egregious. Explain why.
Well, it's egregious because you have an attorney general who ran for office publicly stating her main goal as being attorney general was to get Donald Trump and his family. That is pretty disgusting for a law enforcement officer, the chief law enforcement officer of the state of New York, to run on that sort of platform. I don't care if it's Donald Trump or it's Hillary Clinton or whoever it is. That's a violation of her oath to, do justice here, as opposed to seeking to punish a particular person. And she's carried it out. This whole civil case, put aside all the criminal cases, this whole civil case is Letitia James making good on a campaign promise to get somebody. And she had the full weight of the Attorney General's office pour over everything regarding the Trump organizations. And she found something which is a non-crime, is really a non-fraud, that he supposedly deceived sophisticated banks and sophisticated insurance companies, which have their own teams of people who verify and who look over what loans they're going to give. And not one of them lost a penny. And she is using that not to fine Donald Trump or his organizations for those particular things. She's using it to try to kick him out of the state of New York. That is an egregious sort of penalty. It's disproportionate. And unfortunately, she may get what she's looking for, at least in the trial court, based on what this judge has ruled so far. I hope it doesn't hold up on appeal, because it's a really terrible day for our system that somebody like Letitia James can target an individual with the full weight of the state and try to literally kick them out of the state for something that is a fairly isolated sort of incident. She's not claiming that the Trump organizations are fraudulent organizations. These are not crime families, okay? She's claiming that they did one particular thing wrong with regard to loan valuations of properties. And the punishment she's seeking is political. It's not justice.
And remember, Alvin Bragg passed on this case too. But and this is according to Fox, and I just wanted to check this with you. They said 80% of allegedly what happened before 2014. So the statute of limitations is run out.
I don't know if that's true. That's what Trump said afterwards. I don't know if that's accurate or not accurate. But, that does prove a point. She's going back, a decade. These are not things that happened, 2 years ago or 3 years ago. These are things that happened really long time ago. And it just goes to show you that that was her goal. Her goal was not to really do justice here. It was to get Donald Trump, and she's bringing up stale claims. I don't know if it's 80% of the claims or what percentage it is, but the fact that there's even a statute of limitations issue being discussed shows how far back in time they're going.
And you both alluded to this, but the idea that no bank or other private party is claiming to be any sort of victim here of the alleged fraud, and yet Letitia James brings this case on behalf of the people generically. How does that square?
Yeah, I mean, these are banks which made a lot of money off of Donald Trump. These are banks that they don't just hand somebody $10 million or $50 million or $100 million loan. It's not like Donald Trump says, "Oh, I think this building is worth, $50 million," and the bank says, "Oh, well, if you say so, we'll accept it." No, they have internal people. They have internal teams. They're required by regulation to vet these loans. If they thought he was inflating the value for the purpose of pricing the loan, they would have said something. And that goes to the whole thing. The judge made a decision without hearing any testimony, just based on papers submitted, that Trump committed a fraud with regard to these valuations of the properties. But those are subjective things. Those are things that can vary. And the prime example, and he's getting a lot of criticism for this, not just from Trump's side, but I think anti-Trump people are worried he reached too far, is Mar-a-Lago. Mar-a-Lago, Trump valued at 400 or 800, whatever hundreds of millions he valued it at. I don't know if he's right or he's wrong. It's a unique property. It's got a name recognition because of him. But he said no, that was fraudulent because the tax assessor assesses it at $18 million. What does the tax assessor have to do with anything?
That's absurd. I mean, it's totally patently absurd. I mean, and
there's a 5-bedroom across. There's a 5-bedroom house on the same side of the canal that he's on. It's $53 million, and it doesn't have the beautiful atrium and all the hotel spots, and it's just you can't even compare them to anything.
I mean, there are nuances here. Because Mar-a-Lago does have restrictions on its use. In order to get lower tax rate, Trump committed, and it's in the property records, that it can only be used as a club. It cannot be used as a primary residence for anybody, as a permanent residence. So Trump can't sell it to a Saudi billionaire for $1 billion unless the billionaire is going to use it as a club. So that might affect the value. But even with that restriction, to think Mar-a-Lago is only worth $18 million is completely absurd.
Of course it is.
But why didn't they have a trial on that? Why didn't he hear testimony on that? Instead, he just decides, the tax assessor says it's $18 million. That's what goes to show you that look, I've been a critic of Trump many times, but he's right on this one. He's getting railroaded in this civil case by Letitia James.
Merrick Garland did a sit-down with Scott Pelley, 60 Minutes, on Sunday. And among other questions, he was not really pressed. I mean, all these questions were Scott Pelley pretending to be like the dogged reporter asking hard questions, but they really just set up for Merrick Garland to repeat his rehearsed lines. So I hope people picked up on that if they saw it. But he was asked about the timing of the Trump indictments. And this is what Merrick Garland said.
Well, that's absolutely not true. Justice Department prosecutors are nonpartisan. They don't allow partisan considerations to play any role in their determinations.
Is that right? There were no, you don't believe there were any partisan considerations contemplated by Jack Smith?
Of course there are. I mean, how Merrick Garland can get on there with a straight face and say that. He's just like, reading from the book. It's ridiculous. Of course, so much of the targeting of Trump has been political. So much of it has been, partisan. So I think that's just ridiculous. And it just goes to show you why so few people have trust in the Department of Justice, where you have a guy who can get up there with a straight face and repeat those lines. And I agree with you. That's why I can't even watch 60 Minutes anymore. Everything's a setup there, okay? None of it is natural. And so, yeah, I think that's pretty ridiculous. Nobody believes that. If Trump were not, I guess the question we should always ask is, if Trump had declared early on, in 2021, I am never running for president again, I'm done, would any of this be happening? Of course not. This is all happening because they're afraid he'll win re-election. That's why this is happening. That's partisanship. They would not be going to these lengths to prosecute him if he were not running for president.
Professor William Jacobson, clinical professor of law, director of the Securities Law Clinic at Cornell Law School, founder of LegalInsurrection.com, and the president of the Legal Insurrection Foundation. Professor Jacobson, thanks as always.
Great, thanks.
Thank you, and he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
The stories you need to know to start your day. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560, The Answer.
Hi, folks. Dennis Prager here. You've probably been hearing my colleagues and me talking about investing with YRefi for a while now. You may have some questions, so let's review. It's true. You can earn up to a 10.25% fixed rate of return that is not correlated to the stock market or the Fed. You can turn your income on or off, compound it, whatever you choose, and there are absolutely no fees. There is no attack on principle if you ever need your money back, and you'll get your monthly statement with no surprises. Just go to investyrefi.com. That's invest, the letter Y, then refi, REFY.com. Or call 888-YREFI-24. Folks, this is a solid investment that actually helps people. Just go to investyrefi.com or call 888-YREFI-24 and tell them Dennis Prager sent you.
Balance of Nature, changing the world one life at a time.
I gained a lot of weight because I was so bored. All I did was bake and eat, okay? And I knew I wasn't eating right, and I wasn't feeling right, and I didn't have any energy. And I said, I'm going to give it a shot. I'm going to try it. Not only did it give me energy and help me feel better, but I've lost 35 pounds. I know Balance of Nature is not a weight loss type program, and it may not work for everybody that way, but for me it has, and it's given me energy. And I've been able to do stuff that I haven't been able to do in years.
Start your